Now, from Los Angeles, former Senator of South Dakota, ran against Richard Nixon in the historic 1972 presidential race. Welcome to Democracy Now!, Senator McGovern.
Thank you very much. It's nice to hear those words of the film is out on the 72 campaign. I still think that campaign was properly oriented, and we identified the central issue, which was a mistaken war in Vietnam and Southeast Asia.
We're talking a lot about lies today, and we are getting more information about the pretext for war back in Vietnam, the Gulf of Tonkin. What was your position at the time?
Well, I reluctantly supported that resolution because we were assured that 2 American destroyers operating on the high seas were attacked in an unprovoked, what was called an unprovoked attack, by the North Vietnamese naval forces. Actually, we learned within a few months of the Gulf of Tonkin resolution that there was no evidence that such an attack ever occurred. Even one of the commanders of one of the destroyers said at the time, "Hold up, we're not really sure that there was any attack." Lyndon Johnson himself said to his aides, "It looks like those guys were shooting at whales out there." They really, he began to doubt the substance of the resolution himself. But I think I've always thought that was a cooked-up deal. There, even if there had been some kind of a PT boat attack on those destroyers, it wasn't unprovoked because those destroyers were out there harassing the North Vietnamese coastline. So that was a total fiction, totally without any foundation in fact.
Are you sorry you voted now?
Oh, absolutely.
What would you say about the Democrats today who voted for the invasion based on what they say now is false information, but saying they would do the same thing again? That goes right to John Kerry.
Yeah, well, I can't understand that position because I used to tell my daughters who were terribly discouraged about the war in Vietnam, the one good thing maybe out of this experience is that we'll never do that again. We'll never send American soldiers abroad on the flimsy excuses that took us into Vietnam, and yet here we are going right down the same road again. I couldn't understand people with any historic memory at all voting to authorize war against Iraq in view of the way we'd been so shamefully misled in the Gulf of Tonkin incident. I have to tell you, I don't think the Gulf of Tonkin incident was the cause of a major war against Vietnam. We were already escalating that war long before the Gulf of Tonkin. But I regret voting for it because it was based on falsehoods.
Senator McGovern, we just had an extended conversation about John Rendon, who in the latest issue of Rolling Stone magazine, the man who sold the war, Bush's general in the propaganda war, Rendon Group, key, getting tens of millions of dollars from the U.S. government, military, Pentagon. He was your man in Maine for your presidential election?
If he was, I've forgotten it. I have no knowledge of this man at all.
Well, let me ask about John Murtha and your thoughts about him today. The Congress member, the hawkish Democratic Congress member from Pennsylvania, has just turned around, said he was wrong, and wants the troops out immediately.
Well, that's a good American doctrine, to be able to change your mind once you discover you're wrong. Since when is it considered cowardice or being pro-terrorist to say we were mistaken in going into Iraq? I never did think that intervention in Iraq had anything to do with fighting terrorism. The Iraqis had nothing to do with the 9/11 attack. Saddam Hussein was a big enough SOB without accusing him of something he had nothing to do with. And as the Congressman Murtha has concluded, we're actually creating terrorists in Iraq. There wasn't any big insurgency going on in Iraq at the time we put our army into their country. And I think that Congressman Murtha, who is an experienced combat veteran, 39 years in the United States Marine Corps, had every right to say, I've changed my mind, that it's time to come home. We've done everything we can there militarily.
Perhaps most interesting, Senator McGovern, is not so much that he's being slammed by Republicans in Congress, but that the Democrats are not supporting him.
Well, some of the Democrats are supporting him.
Or they're distancing themselves from him.
Well, that may be. I think that's wrong. I think we ought to get out of Iraq. I was saying we shouldn't go in there months before we went in. A lot of thoughtful people were saying that, including General Wesley Clark. Other people were warning us that this was a trap. It'd be easy to get into, but very hard to get out. And I think that Congressman Murtha has come to that conclusion and had the courage to say, I was wrong. I don't want to see any more Americans dying out there. Let's get out and do it in a systematic way.
Senator George McGovern, I want to thank you very much for being with us. Senator McGovern of South Dakota speaking to us from Los Angeles. And that does it for the broadcast. Democracy Now! Is produced by Mike Burke, Sharif Abdel-Qadoos, John Hamilton, Anna Nagara, Elizabeth Press, Yoruba Richin, Maddie Harper, Susie Salami. Mike DeFilippo is our engineer. DemocracyNow.org is our website. I'm Amy Goodman. Thanks for joining us for another edition of Democracy Now!